give you a glimpse of what the game looks like and sort of explain it to you. For people who haven't heard it before, I know I've been at SGDC a few times, but this is Where Shadows Slumber. It's a indie, obviously, it's a team, right? Mobile puzzle game designed in portrait mode for your devices. Right now it's on the App Store, it's coming to Android and Amazon Kindles and stuff fairly soon. The premise of the game is that it's a tap-to-move puzzler where you're controlling Obi, that little dude in the white over there. He's always trying to get to the goal at the end of the level. So every puzzle you experience is just one screen, like this. The camera doesn't move, most of them. This is like the only exception at one level. And you're trying to get to the goal. And what's the hook, right? Every puzzle game has some kind of a hook. In this game, Where Shadows Slumber, shadows will actually change the objects that they're obscuring, right? So I know in a lot of games, probably in a lot of your games, shadows are totally cosmetic, right? It's a feature you turn on Unity, the lights come with shadows, and that's kind of cool, so you just have them there. But for us, they actually are a mechanic. The reason why the shadows are totally pitch black is because they're completely hiding what's behind them, and then the next time you see those elements, they're different. So watch, Obi's going to walk back on that button, causing this thing to move. A whole shadow sweeps across the level, and we have different elements there, different pathways you can walk on, buttons that appear and disappear, dragging things you can move. So we sort of mix and match those elements throughout the whole game, and that's the idea. And I'll also show you the trailer, although I did not test the sound. So this is either going to be really loud or a silent film. Oh wait, there's like a audio page.
Figure it out.
Would you like someone to come over?
Anybody got any questions? Feel free to raise your hand or just shout them out.
Yeah, I forgot to mention, we'll be doing a Q&A, dedicated Q&A when we're done with this, but also if somebody strikes you while this is happening, just raise your hand. Let's see if it works. It's never going to work.
They've redone it.
No.
Yeah.
It still never works.
I could also, we could figure it out later and I'll show the trailers.
This is my
Not the worst idea, actually.
Yeah, I don't know. Alright, we'll figure that out later. Jumping ahead.
But if you search on YouTube, you'll probably find that same trailer. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Where Shadows Slumber. Go past all the people that are like doing walkthroughs and stuff. Alright, so this is the team. Maybe everyone just like introduce themselves. But I have it kind of in order of like when people join the project.
Cool. So I'm Jack Kelly. I graduated 5 years ago now from this very school. Yeah. So the whole concept was mine in terms of what the game actually is about, and then Frank and I have been working on games for a while. So brought him on to do the art. I did all the coding and stuff, and then we kind of split the design.
I'm Frank, SGDC alum. I think I was like treasurer and general dog's body. Those were during the times when the club wasn't well run. So, but I had nothing to do with that. Total coincidence, you guys.
Everyone else was
so Jack was sort of toying around ideas and stuff. We had finished our game Skyrunner. This was actually while I was working on the Mystery Game Kickstarter. But Jack had all these awesome ideas for a cool light shadow game. He said, "Oh, you know, can you help with art? Like, do you think this would be an awesome project to work on?" So I came on to do art, environmental stuff, animation, UI design, all that stuff. It was a pretty clean break between programming and art. I like to say that Jack's art is as bad as my code, so we made a good team. We brought Caroline's not with us, but she's also an alum. She did CS and art here at Stevens, and she did our website, so whereshadowslumber.com. She kept us up and running.
Yeah, we already sort of introduced ourselves, but I'm Noah, and I would say from the audio end of things, I was probably the main guy giving Jack headaches.
That's true.
We worked together a lot, getting everything implemented, and
yeah, same way as running a stack, I'm trying to like regulation and well, I'm trying to like anything, but we're designing
there's
stuff.
some
So
things.
yeah, so we're both kind of like being like not easy together, but
They didn't go to Stevens, they went to NYU.
but we really hot.
yeah, it's a much better view.
Yeah. Well, we actually met them last year at Play NYC. Did anyone go to Play NYC? Oh, you guys, come on! All right, we'll give you a bunch of like good indie game events that you should definitely go to. There's actually one run by the same group on Saturday. Playcrafting is a great resource. So we met them. There's a game convention that's like, okay, it's not as big as PAX East, but it's like kind of up and coming. You should put Play NYC on your calendars for next year if you're gonna be returning to Stevens. Anyway, all right. So the bulk of this talk is just sort of breaking down our game design process. We felt that would be the most interesting to you guys because you're aspiring game developers, right? You've probably made games before before, probably did a bunch of game jam stuff. Now you're thinking to yourselves, what would it be like to actually embark on a ridiculous 4-year journey to make an indie game? That's ridiculous, right? It's crazy. So here's the way we broke it up. You don't have to do this, but we'll sort of explain the pros and cons of what we did. There were 3 phases: the throwaway prototype, the demo, and the production version. And this first one we're going to talk about is the throwaway prototype. It was between November 2014 and 2015. So this is what Jack started off with. I'm actually going to play a bunch of really old builds, and maybe Jack can talk about what your thought process was like when you were making it. But yeah, the throwaway version of the Light Shadow game, it didn't have a name yet, right? So we didn't know it was going to be Where Shadows Slumber. It was just called Light Shadow Game. And we knew that this project was just for testing. So sort of like, I can't really think of a good analogy, but if you knew you were working on something and you were going to chuck it out the window so that you had a chance to start over fresh right after.
Yeah, I know a lot of you guys are, a lot of you are from SGDC, so you've done a good bit of game development yourselves. And one trap that I find myself falling into is developing something in proprietary capacity, like just trying it out, seeing if it works, and then saying, okay, it works pretty well, I'm going to use it now. This is the code that I'm using, and then when you have to update it, it's a huge mess because going in, you had no idea what it was going to look like at the end. That's kind of the concept of the throwaway was we make the game, kind of prove concept, prove that it works, and also to write the code and then pretty much just scrap it and rewrite the code. That gives you a good chance and a good opportunity to kind of have your ending design in mind when you're writing the code. And it really helps ending up with clean code that's easy to reason about and update and work with.
Same thing happens to artists too. Anyone here a 3D artist, animating, rigging? All right, this example. All right, that one guy, I love you. There's too. So if you've had experience rigging 3D models, you maybe had that sinking feeling in your stomach where it's like, okay, I did it. I got through all the steps, but there's a critical thing at the very beginning of modeling a character that I really messed up, maybe the flow of the edges. And now I'm too deep in, I really want to restart, but in the middle of this project, that's the beauty of the throwaway. So you can just have a fresh start. Let's look at what is this the first prototype, November 19?
I guess so.
Oh my
I
God.
don't remember.
This is what the game looked like 4 years
really
ago.
crappy one? Oh, it's so.
They're all like this.
Okay.
I don't think it. Wait, let's hit the lights.
Yeah, right behind, literally right behind you.
They're not
All
light
the
switches.
bottom ones, right?
Yeah. Well, smack them. We just smack them until what something we want, and then if it's too much, we're on the left.
Turn the shut off all of them.
It's just the override from all the way to the left. Override up. Is that one something like the lights behind you?
Yeah, I remember doing all this from.
Yes, I can give you audio too.
And that side never works, right? Remember else it's always. Fortunately, this is the part of the presentation that's not supposed to look good.
Oh yeah, the spots in the front just do not go off anymore.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Oh my God.
You didn't see it? Well, they used to.
All right, we're gonna start again.
Okay, so one of the biggest problems with this game that we had from the very beginning was that, like Frank said, for the most part, shadows and lighting are cosmetic. They're kind of, you make your game and then you put lights on top of it. And that's the idea that most game engines, that Unity included, kind of use as a basis. But for us, those things are very core to the game, and we need them to behave exactly the way we want them to. And that kind of gave us the biggest headache of everything throughout making the entire game, because you had to, the way that game engines are designed in general is just, lighting and shadows are all cosmetic, and you want to do optimization, first thing, turn off all the shadows and all the rendering pipelines, and everything is kind of designed such that shadows are something put on top of your game, and they're not the core aspect of your game. You can see there, the way that the lighting works is similar to the way that works in real life. The closer you are to a light, the brighter it shines on you, and that's why everything's so dark in that level, because the light fades as it travels over distance. And that was one of the problems we had to overcome, was that everything looks kind of faded and weird.
Yeah.
And very dark.
Oh, this is a better example. All right, so this is one that you worked on a little after.
Yeah.
Oh wait, January? That's crazy. Oh yeah, that makes sense. So January 2015.
We didn't really start working on this until probably June of 20 whatever.
Yeah, 2015. So this is another one, and again, you can see that the camera angle here isn't quite what we had for the final game. It's just Jack was still kind of testing stuff out. None of this, Unity's not going to do any of this stuff for you, right? So even just the pathfinding to move the guy.
Unity did do the pathfinding.
Oh, they did? Okay.
In this demo. So
In this version.
If you want to try out that Unity's pathfinding was great for just testing something out. It was like, all right, just do it, and it did it.
Now this one is actually sort of a puzzle because there's a bridge that's out. This is our classic example, like, oh no, a bridge is out, but there is shadow. Whoosh. You can kind of see it happen. But there you go. So Jack has this sort of core thing, which is shadow passes over an element, and that element changes. I believe this one is not a two-way street, though. It won't go back. Yeah.
It'll go back to go around the other way.
Really?
Maybe. I don't remember. Nope.
It was just one way.
He's just gonna keep going.
One way.
Keep going. Don't give up. That's what everyone does. All right, cool. So, you know, you have to, when you're developing a game, you have to sort of go for the riskiest things first. Like the example I always use is if you were developing the next Halo multiplayer shooter, and the first thing you started working on was the music or the animations or the models.
Music's easy.
Well, it'd be silly because those are things that you know you can do already, right? So the really tough thing about making a multiplayer shooter is the internet connection, right? Is it actually going to be smooth? Like that's a really hard thing to do. Netcode is hard. For us, the difficult things were pathfinding and the shadow actually doing what it's supposed to do and all of the mathematical calculations involved in that. And then you went on to shaders. And I don't even know if I have a good example of that, but those are the riskiest things. I know I can make models, right? We know we can get musicians to do sound, but you have to start with what's the riskiest thing. This game won't work if this doesn't work, right? But obviously, what we saw with these prototypes is that we were definitely getting to a good place. Let me show
And
one more.
the other side of that is not only whether or not it works, but whether or not it creates interesting and fun gameplay. You can come up with a great idea for a game and you implement it and it works perfectly, but it's not fun. Nobody's really going to want to play it. So we kind of had to feel it out. We didn't want to put a lot of work into the game and then have people say, oh, it's not enjoyable. So we had these series of different puzzles, these prototypes we put together, we were able to try, and that's kind of the whole idea of the throwaway, or sorry, the second phase, which I guess we'll get to later.
Yeah. This is a little tough to see because it's small, but our character is in sort of a prison. This was like one of the more full levels. It still sort of plays itself for you.
Oh, I forgot about this one.
This one was so
This
cool.
one's so good.
All right, so you're basically trapped in this room, right? There's really nothing you can do. However,
So,
yeah, it's tough to see. But this is something we also realize, right? If it's this difficult, then we need to work on the render. All right, so you go behind the corner. We've just casted a shadow over here. Hey! Now the door's open. Right? It's so cool. Yeah, but it's low. Okay, and then this one was, yeah, you can't cross this bridge, but you know you're supposed to get over there, and you'll like freak out. I don't think I can actually make it. I try hard enough. Then there's like a little thing to go over here, and there's a button. Yes. So trying a different thing, like, okay, what if a light turns on, and then, you know, because that light is on, there's a bridge there, and it's there forever. That light's never going to turn off, so the bridge is there permanently. I don't actually know if that specifically made it in the game. I can't think of it. Well, it sort of did, like, somewhat.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then, oh, you win! Yes! Look how juicy that is! Oh my goodness, okay, so you get the idea. Your game is always going to be really rough at the beginning, but you need to go for those really risky features first. Back to presentation. We'll jump out from the end. Okay, so then, while that was happening, that's when I came on. I sort of already mentioned a lot of the stuff already, like you know, it's my job to sort of take this and see if there's a way to make it aesthetically pleasing. And Jack and I had to work together on that because I wasn't going to touch the actual rendering code. But I did begin to sort of do these little Monument Valley style levels where the camera was totally orthographic, perfect 60-degree angle, and just sort of feeling out like what this game would look like. So I tried to set up some certain rules like, well, if there's stairs, there won't be stairs, just ramps, right? That's kind of what I was thinking at the time. We have this ambient shadow effect that we eventually drop because there's too much shadow, right? Those shadows don't actually affect any puzzles, so why are they there? This was actually us trying out light. Remember that?
Oh man, yeah, there's a lot of forays on our adventure here.
But this is like the first time we had these clean lights, except we did it in kind of a fake way using Unity cookies, like Unity light cookies, which was a method we eventually dropped, but we knew we wanted these like
That was our first attempt at avoiding that attenuation problem.
Right.
Things we kind of, instead of having you have a light and it puts light out around you, we're not talking today. Instead you have a spotlight above you that points down at you.
Right.
Turns out that's not going to work with more interesting shadows trying to be cast and stuff like that. But that's kind of where we start.
You can clearly see the difference here. Like this would be a really difficult game to play. It sort of feels more like Diablo or something, like just hunting around a dungeon and you only have a small light. You gotta kill zombies. This feels more like a puzzle game where you can actually see all the elements around you. Cool. And then, you know, some concept art. So we knew like one level we were definitely do is that bridge, right? Because it's super simple. You can't cross the bridge. You need a shadow to cross over the bridge. So I did a bunch of different concepts for that would look like, trying to nail down this low poly style. This is around the time we knew that we couldn't or didn't want to make it look like Call of Duty, right? Super graphic, super photorealistic. We wanted to go more for a minimalist, that sort of style. And also, we wanted the game to sort of be modular as much as possible. Ended up having to do a lot of very specific artwork, but as much as I could, I wanted to reuse elements so that we could have a pretty robust puzzle game with a lot of levels and reuse art wherever possible.
It made it easy for me to put levels together without Frank's help because I couldn't figure out how to make up a matchup.
I should see if I have an example of that too, like kind of your gray box levels. Oh, yes, I actually do have one of those. We'll show that for probably for a production thing. Okay, cool. So that's the idea of the prototype, the throwaway prototype. I don't even know if I could show throwaway prototype itself because like I don't even know what it is. Like
Yeah,
we just threw it away.
we basically just saw it. It's a bunch of collections of, hey, I tried this, didn't work. Hey, I tried this, didn't work. Do we think that there's something here? We think people are going to enjoy playing it, and can we make it into a real game?
Yeah.
Kind of feel it out, and then pretty much start over, but we know what we're trying to get.
Right. I could bring up that project, but I don't even know what scene I would open. So, all right, cool. So then we moved on to the second phase, which I think may have been longer than actually making the full game, which is pretty, right? Because this was like over 2 years. Yeah, that's nuts. Or maybe I'm just.
Over a year now.
Okay, no, yeah. Actually making the game was a bit longer than the press release. But so we knew we wanted to do some kind of a press release demo to push the concept further. So we were happy with what we saw in the throwaway phase. We weren't quite ready to make the full game yet. And so we said, what if we make a sort of single downloadable thing, a demo, basically, that people can see and play and journalists can begin to talk about. It'll be super polished, it'll have sound and everything, will be done. And we'll sort of encounter all the issues we would encounter with an actual launch, but with a fake free game, and that's the demo. So yeah, it's a press release demo of the game, intended to be shown to journalists. This is basically what I said. But it's not going to have a final storyline. You know, these puzzles might not necessarily make it into the full game, that kind of thing. This is when Caroline jumped in to do our website. Now we realized we were ready to actually start promoting ourselves. And so I guess she joined just before the demo launched, because we launched the demo.
Like a week before.
Yeah, we launched the demo
Really last minute.
November 2016. So we brought her on. Let me look at this folder now. All right, so here's more of our demo stuff. By the way, who here has played our demo? Not the beta, the actual demo itself. Cool stuff. Awesome. The best thing to show. For this one, we went like super in detail with all the concept art for each level. So the beginning thing. And we knew it was going to be node-based, right? So we didn't like that messy pathfinding that you saw in the throwaway build, where you could sort of be like anywhere on the plane. We wanted the character to actually be on a space or on another space, but not really ever between them unless he's actually walking. So that's why you can see the little grid there. And every single level that went into the demo had this sort of design. So this is just me in Photoshop. But the 3D version actually sort of looked like that.
Yeah, very, very familiar.
It was helpful having that reference. And of course, I knew that 3D would take a lot longer than doing stuff in Photoshop. That's what the grid looks like. We're not exactly at a 60-degree angle. It's like 60 and 45.
It's like 53.
Oh my god. Okay. Yeah. Character for scale. Every single level of the demo. Different phases of puzzle completion. Well, this one actually looks better in the full game.
Yeah, but that's our classic bridge puzzle.
Bridge, yes, there it is. So you can kind of see the evolution of just that bridge puzzle, how it evolved over months and years.
And that's, I think, well, there's actually one of those, but that's one of the ones that made it into the final game,
Yeah.
in the form of the second level of the game.
The Opera didn't eventually end up looking quite like this. This is 2 airport plane. Alright, let's check some other things.
Yeah, so that demo is still available now if you guys wanted to try it on, it's not on iOS anymore, but it is on Android. If you wanted to try it out, there's also the beta, like you said, but you can see this where we were before.
Quality's not great. You get the idea. So we did everything, right? The throwaway. Oh, there we go. Throwaway was just a crappy thing. We didn't put too much effort into. Because clean code or art, or that one didn't even have sound, I guess? Maybe we like tested sound a little bit, like does the sound work? Great, one sound file worked, move on. But for the demo, we actually said, all right, people are going to be playing this, they're going to be downloading it for free, let's make it as polished as possible. It's not like we have to do a whole game, right? So we can do little effects, like the wind blowing through the valley, and his robe kind of like, fluttering in the wind. He changes animations when he's climbing the bridge. And we'll jump on to a new puzzle after this. Okay, Aqueduct puzzle. So you can still download this on Android if you want to play it, totally free. It still holds up. This is what we took to a bunch of different conventions. So the beauty of having this thing around, even though we sort of had it way too long, but the good thing was we could start going to stuff like Playcrafting and Indicate, and we could show people that the game was in development. We didn't have to bring a development build, because bringing development builds is really kind of
Frank made me build a development build every time we went to a convention anyway. So.
Eventually I did. Eventually I got sick of showing the demo because we got like the same feedback for like a year and a half. But yeah, that is one benefit of doing that. That you can kind of work on your game separately and have this polished thing that you can always show off at conventions. Cool. I guess that's the end of that one. Oh yeah.
It's like a bunch of things. It's like a whole walkthrough of the whole game.
Yeah, pretty much. Download it to see the rest. More concept art and stuff. So now I was trying to really nail down what he would look like. We actually didn't write a story yet though. That came later. Oh, and as far as how the demo did, this was pretty encouraging, but that's because it's free, right? So, lifetime downloads of the demo is over 300,000, which is crazy. I'm not sure how people are still finding it, but they are. We still get 5-star reviews, which is great. Really well rated, so it itself is kind of a cool thing that we made. That's awesome. So go rate it on Android, but you don't have to. That's the best part. I don't even have to ask you to go rate it. Thousands of people already did. Awesome. Okay, then we moved on to final production. So now it's the very beginning of 2017. I was actually still finishing up some cutscene stuff for the demo, but Jack moved on with, again, another new Unity project, starting clean, but you transferred stuff over too, right?
Oh, yeah. At the end of the demo project, I kind of had an idea. This is code I like, this is code I'd rather rewrite, and I did exactly that.
Right. And it's just easier to do that when you start from scratch, I assume, or maybe this process sucked, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's, when you have code written that's like halfway good, it's very tempting to be like, oh, let me go in and use what I have and like only update the bad parts. And then you kind of get sucked into doing it exactly the way you already did it. It's just, it is nicer to kind of have a clean slate, start fresh, and do it exactly right from the start.
Yes. So, final release of the game, this is from our GitHub thing, which contains lots of levels and a full story. It's going to be launched on the market. So this is the real deal now. No turning back. And this is the phase of the project where we sort of made decisions about the scope of the game. So the demo, we knew it was going to be like 10 levels with some cutscene at the end to give you a sense of what the story is like. And again, you could play it to see that for yourself. But here's where we decided, okay, we want to have 8 worlds. I guess we said 7 worlds.
7 worlds and an intro.
Right. So it was 7 worlds, 5 levels each. But then we realized that you can never be too obvious with people, and instead of doing like a tutorial, it would just be this first world with a few puzzles that are super simple, and that's going to be your way in. So that's us figuring out the scope of the game. Now, if we said, like with Skyrunner, we're going to have 200 levels, right? That changes everything, because now your levels totally have to be, they can't quite be as handcrafted. So this was a big decision, but it was still pretty ambitious. We actually wrote the story, because we did like 3 drafts. Yeah. I forget exactly when we finished those, but probably somewhere in the early 2017 era. Deciding on the price, arguing about the price. I still don't know if we came to an agreement. But just trying to figure out. We knew we would do premium. Then it was just about like what would people actually pay. And we will be doing some sales in the future to test that theory more. And then release date. I didn't really do a good job of estimating when I thought this would actually be done. So we really finished a month ago.
Finished?
Yeah, like we actually finished a month ago.
We'll be finished in another 6 months.
Well, that's true. We still have to do like more platforms.
Yeah,
but
you guys know it's not on Android. So.
Right. But there was a time when I thought like, okay, we'll definitely have it out on, for March 2018. That's going to be our release date. That's kind of an eternal thing. We didn't tell anyone that, but we believed it. And I was wrong. Then I was like, okay, July, definitely July or May. It's going to be in May. It's like, all right, July is going to be our time. We're gonna be able to do it. And we eventually did get it done just last month on iOS, not on Android just yet. So final production was tough, but we tried.
Yeah, I mean, anybody who's ever done computer science knows that it takes at least twice as long as you think it will to do literally anything.
Yeah. And here's what we're going you guys on. Yeah.
Yeah, the deadline for beginning was March.
Yeah. Yeah, see, we have had you for basically twice as long as we said. We like you guys so much, we've been delaying the project. Keep working.
I don't know if I have a slide for this particular. You guys want to talk about the sound system because it's pretty complex.
Yeah.
But I don't have any like slides that would help out for that exactly.
Actually, yeah, I mean, I think one of my favorite things that we did at B-Stage was this thing that Frank, I think you had already started building, which is called the FX Museum. I mean, that's a little slower, but basically, I think it's really important in any game, especially nowadays, like now that phones are powerful enough, that we should try to make the soundscape sound as like alive as possible. And so I think a huge part of that is because in real life and like in nature, we're creating like this weird alien world here. So we wanted the sound to have some level of like randomized nature, also some level of control, of course. So basically, what we did was we built an object that just managed essentially being able to set up a couple different types of things, either loop sounds that were just like ambiances, but we could have them function in different ways, like pitch variation and things like that. And then we also set up like randomized sounds that basically were just drawing from like an array of sounds that could just, so if we had like frogs, we could have a bunch of different frogs, but then on top of that we could randomize a bunch of elements about those sounds when they were played, including like when they were played, how often they were played, the pitch and the volume, just many things we could to make it sound
In other words, every time you play the game, it's not slightly the same atmosphere that you never go to the same place. That was kind of like the other one. And also I think an important part of it, when we started going into it, was that we wanted to get away from the idea of like having music groups and then like design stuff. So like we kind of wanted to create this soundscape that was, created by everything. So like the sound design was musical, the same way of music is always sound design. So like wanting to like all the others to work together.
So yeah, for final production, it was basically the demo part 2, except more serious, right? So now we knew these levels were actually going out to real people, and we had a lot of feedback based on all the times we've shown the demo about what people wanted from puzzles. So we tried to avoid puzzles where people felt like they solved themselves. That happened a few times where it was like, hey, all I did was walk my character forward and I don't even know why I solved this puzzle. But we put those out. So yeah, if you play the demo and then you buy the game, you may only notice like 1 or 2 that actually made it all the way through, but that's because it's still iteration. We were never going to take the demo and completely carbon copy it right into the full game. So I just show some cool production gifts.
Yeah, and I'll jump in real quick too and say I think that part of like our job as sound designers was also basically creating like certain interactive elements, but also actually like helping with puzzle solving. So we had a system of what we call puzzle solves, which are basically just like different musical or sound layers that came in that basically just indicated to the player like, all right, you're on the right track. Good job. Like you did part 1, you solved it. All right, on to part 2. And I think that's like a really great method to use, especially if sometimes you might not fully realize maybe if you're on the right track or have solved the puzzle, so the sound is like an extra hint, like, nope, that's right, good job, like keep going in that direction.
But it is very sometimes people don't realize like that's what's happening, that somehow you feel like you're moving forward just because there's a new layer to the system.
Yeah, actually, one of the more interesting things about this whole game design that I would never have realized, but kind of gave us some trouble in terms of getting people to realize what's happening, is that the thing that you need people to pay attention to at any given time is by definition the thing that we're making sure they can't see. So like they have to notice that something changes and we're making sure they can't see that it changes. So like so many times people would play our first couple of levels and be like, I don't understand. They would walk past and solve the puzzle, fix the bridge, and they would never realize that it was broken before. They just wouldn't see it, and they wouldn't see that it changes, and they'd solve it and they'd be like, I have no idea how I solved it, and stuff like that. And it's really interesting to think it that way in terms of game design, because that's kind of the whole point of the game, is that you can't see some things, but you need to draw the player's attention to those things. So that was kind of one of our biggest design hurdles in terms of kind of teaching the player about how the game works.
I have an old picture of, remember when we had like the bridge was black when it was revealed first?
Yeah, I remember that.
Hey, really quick, you said you know how to fix the audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we could like just get that working more visible well and
Yeah.
let's get some lights like that.
You should do it.
Yeah, I'll show that. This is actually be a good time to show the final trailer. So, yeah, some more production skills. These are actually the ones that are on the App Store, just in the store listing. One thing you're going to have to do if you want to actually make games and actually sell them is you have to get very good at photographing your game. It's not as easy as it sounds. You can't just hit print screen and like then cut that out and paint that or something.
You can if your game looks really good.
Or snipping tool was another one. I ended up using some plugin I found on the Unity store that actually lets you set the resolution of the final thing. So if I wanted to, I could take this and make like a 7-foot-tall poster screenshot just by setting that thing to like, all right, do like 50,000 pixels. So I could do it. So yeah, there's some production shots. It's good.
And, I mean, we can do a shot.
Yeah.
It's fine now.
Yeah, go find a video. Or actually script your. You can also check your.
Oh.
Hey!
Um,
Nice! Good stuff, of course.
So here's the iOS trailer.
That should be good. It's alright. We can see it. Wherever you want.
Cool. I think that's really the whole cycle. Oh, and then obviously the next. All right, so that's production. That's taking the game through all the phases of development. Then obviously the next phase, which isn't really a phase, is sort of marketing promotion. So that started last month and will go until I die. I'll always be telling people to give this 5 stars. We actually made $8 million, which is great. So thanks for coming, everybody. Have a great night. No, okay. Didn't go quite that well, obviously. But let me just show you some of the sales numbers from like in App Store Connect. This is sort of your back-end thing when you have an app on the App Store. So, funny story with pre-orders. We hadn't actually intended to ever make the app available for pre-order. I didn't know that was a thing on iOS. And then, sort of out of the blue, I submitted our game to Apple through one of their just forums on their website. You guys could all find this right now, and you can actually do it right now if you have a game. They say that you should give them 6 to 8 weeks ahead of time before your game comes out. I did it late because I totally forgot, so I gave them about a month's heads up. So I just sent it in with some screenshots, probably a video, explained what our marketing strategy was, talked about the team, and got an email back from a guy at Apple. He was like, "This game looks awesome. Are you going to make it available for pre-order? We'd love to put it in the coming soon section," which is like on the front page of the App Store. Sort of like you have to scroll down a little bit, but you see coming soon, and that's where all the games are that are going to be on the store in like a few weeks. And we were like, "Oh, that's awesome!" But we hadn't really planned on doing that. So then it was sort of a mad dash to make sure the game was at least available for download, even though I guess that build probably wasn't quite ready. There was probably some bug with it. That might have been the one with the title screen. Yeah. I'm not sure if that was the splash screen one or... Anyway, so it was on the coming soon page for like 10 days. We got 455 pre-orders, which is awesome. And now at this point, oh yeah, and here's what it looked like. Oh no, I guess this isn't the pre-order picture. So then, yeah, when when we actually launched on September 20th on iOS, they didn't quite tell us that we were going to be on the front page, but the guy sent a kind of a coy email. Like, Apple never really does anything straight away. They'll never just tell you. It's more like a film noir. It's like, oh, I think you're going to like where you end up. Just tell us, man.
Those were his actual words.
Really? Because what it was is that we were on the coming soon section, and then the day before launch, we got taken off of coming soon, and I was like, oh God, they hate our game. They found out we suck. They know. And I asked this guy, like, in a nice way, but also sort of terrified. I was like, hey, what happened, man? Like, I'm so sorry. Like, should I come to California? He was like, no. Like, this is just how we do it. It's to avoid errors. We take you off of coming soon, and then you're actually on the store. It's awesome. Brilliant puzzles of light and shad. I didn't write that. But they actually put us up on the front page, which is great. So our launch weekend, we were here. As soon as you opened up the App Store and you went to the Games tab, this is the first one. Go to Games, boom, right there. That's all the way to the left. So you can scroll over it. I think like pretty crazy. Like Monster Hunter was the one right next to us. It was on sale. That was awesome. And we're also really climbing the charts. Again, that first weekend, we were getting like 1,000 sales a day or something crazy. We were like number 3 for puzzle. So super cool. But yeah, it's the first is bad.
I don't know. It's all right.
But those algorithms are always updating, so at this point we're like either unranked or 103 or something. It changes all the time. So here's our actual sales. And you can pretty much, where do you think Apple's feature was? Can anyone tell me? Pointing on the chart? Right over here, baby. Yeah, so this is like, some people got the game before it was out. I think they were in Australia or something.
Yeah.
Like, nice. And then you can clearly see where the Apple Store feature was, and then it sort of tails off and it kind of goes over to where we are right now. So, the moral of the story is, at least the way we're marketing the game, which is we're not doing too much right now, you really want Apple pushing your game, and when they do, it's awesome. Just getting in front of as many people as possible, but it is kind of tough to be discovered after that. So right now we're sort of working on other ways we can do that without Apple, plus what are some ways we can entice Apple to promote us again? Because the funny thing is, I check the Today store, I check the Today page on the App Store every day, and they really promote like the same 30 games. They just find new ways to do it. So it'll be like 10 puzzlers that are pretty great, Under Valley, right there. And then the next day it'll be like, you won't believe these puzzle games. Under Valley again. Or it'll be like, here's a beautiful story game, Under Valley. So they know what sells, and they're trying to make money for themselves, obviously. So one day what we'd like to do is make sure that Where Shadows Slumber is sort of in that ecosystem of games that they know they can rely on, and when it's Halloween, like right now, they can say spooky puzzle games like Wonder Valley, Where Shadows Slumber. That's what we want to do, is be right up there. But right now we're still working on it. So that's kind of the sales numbers. And then the future. Oh wait, were there any other marketing things? We're going to talk about the future marketing, but like present day stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like this may sound kind of obvious, but I feel like it's so important. Just in terms of when you release, I think it's so incredibly important. Everything you do before release. Like, I think people sometimes make the mistake of, saying like, all right, we're going to release the game, and then we'll think about all the marketing and do that. But I think really it's like a big year before your game is released. Like a game that, like, Super Meat Boy, Super Meat Boy, like Fez, like those games that were like insanely successful. They already had like 1 million people who were obsessing over them on Reddit and trying to figure out like, oh, when's the game coming out? So the day that they release it, they already have like their first, maybe not 1 million, but thousands of people who are already ready to buy it. So I think that's like a huge thing to always remember when you're a year before your release. Like you should start setting up all your social media, trying to make as many fans as you can, and staying in touch with them.
That's one of the reasons we went to so many conventions and stuff. We went to just a bunch of places where we could say, hey, look at our game. Like, you can't buy it yet, but look at it and become a fan of it and sign up for my mailing list and get on the beta and play the demo and all this stuff. Even before we had the demo, we were going to the first one we went to. GameCon.
Yeah.
And
We agreed to that. Like a build of the demo.
yeah, that was like right before the demo came out. And it was just like, you go to these things and we at this point we go to things and we see people and they're like, hey, nice to see you again. We see all the same people, but we also see new people, and you get people who come up and are like, oh man, I've never seen this game and it's great and I'm gonna get it as soon as it comes out. And having that fan base, I mean, obviously our sales aren't off the charts or anything, but having that fan base is a huge thing to kind of kickstart once you're releasing. Like that takes time to build, and it takes a lot of work to get there, and we didn't put in as much as we probably should have, but you need to do some of that work to kind of get a fan base to start with.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think the tough thing is retaining people, so we showed it to a lot of people, but I never really had a good strategy to keep fans around. So like there's an email list, and you can email them. But like, I never really had like, when we met people at these conventions, I never really had a kind of a net to pull them in like, hey, here's a way you can interact with the community over time. It's a tough thing. So
Yeah.
that's something to think about. Maybe like, okay, definitely get an email list of 1,000 people, that's awesome. But do you also have 10 strangers who love your game just because your game's awesome, and they're also like interacting with you on a regular basis? That's something we definitely don't have, and I'm not sure how to do that. But if you have someone on your team who's like really good marketer or community manager, that's something that they can work on. And then, you know, people that just love your game for the sake of it have a reason to promote you once you're out on the store. They send it out to their network, which is different than your network, their friends and family, as opposed to your friends and family. It's all helpful.
And delaying the release by like 8 months also doesn't help.
Yeah, that's part of the problem.
But we also do a developer blog where we talk about basically all the stuff we're talking about now and more. Kind of just every week we try to put something up. It's been a little slower recently, but if you go to GameRevenant.com, you can see it. That's another way that we see people and they say, hey, I love your game. I'm also a developer. We say, okay, cool. Go to GameRevenant.com. You can read about our process and what we're doing and stuff.
And I'm so glad you mentioned it because this week's blog that I posted a few hours ago is about someone that tried to email me to scam me out of a free promo code and how I trolled him. You should all read it. It's hilarious. It's so good, but I'm not going to ruin it for you. So go to GameRevenant.com, and then while you're there, peruse some other educational material. We seriously have stuff going back all the way to at least like, oh damn, this might be GamerCon, November 2016.
It goes back to when we released the demo.
Oh my god, and he didn't even have like a robe. It was just Rayman dude. That's awesome. So seriously, like besides this talk, if you wanted to just trace the development of pretty much the entire game, sans the throwaway prototype, just read every blog post that we did for the past 2 years. That's awesome. Good mention of that. Okay, so the future. There's some things we know for sure, and then other things are kind of in the air. Look at Amazon Kindle in its corner of shame over there. Get out of here. Can't even see you because yeah, it's there. All right, so there's other platforms obviously besides iOS. We always intended to hit iOS and Android. It's just, well, should we tell them the real reason?
Yes.
Okay.
You guys are developers. You have to know this.
So we'll sort of tell you the behind-the-scenes thing and also the public reason. So the game is available on the App Store right now. It will be coming to Android. I don't know if you want to say the actual date. You want to commit to it?
Yeah.
All right. November 20th.
2019.
2077. November 20th, it'll be available on Android. So if you could, check it out and show your family on Thanksgiving. So yay. Otherwise, we're going to get drowned out by like Candy Crush Turkey Edition. Oh my God. Full of so much gravy. Which one's your grandma? Definitely do that. So 2 reasons why Android came out 2 months after iOS. The first is just that there are less iOS devices to test, and so we had a few of them, and our friends had a few of them, you guys have iPhones. So we felt like we could probably cover most of what we had to do for testing just by what we had on hand, which was actually not true because we missed a pretty big bug on like older generations of iPhones because the App Store won't let you say, get rid of some of these old iPhones. There was like someone that had an iPhone 5. No, someone that had the original iPad, but was running iOS 12, which is the newest one. And I was like, are you kidding me, lady? And she understood. I was like, please, ma'am, do you have another phone? And she was like, yeah, all right, I'll just use my other phone. I was like, thank you. She was like, hasn't been on Facebook. I'm like, I don't know what to do because this is the oldest iPad that is in existence. But the App Store only lets you say, only this operating system of iOS can buy our game. So what are you gonna say? If we said 12, which was the most recent thing, she still would have got it. So you can't win. The other reason why we did a 2-month exclusive kind of window, and I kind of gave it away, but when we were telling Apple about our game and sort of sending in our roadmap ahead of time, they send you a spreadsheet, and the spreadsheet is just like, all right, give us like basic info about your game. So you're gonna give a description, talk about the team, what languages it's coming out at, what's the price tier. You can't actually say a price, but you can choose from their preset things all the way from free, 99 cents to $99. Actually, I think you can do $600, but they have tiers for it. Like they won't just let you put $1 million or something, because otherwise a baby's gonna hit it, and they probably love it. So one of the options they had was, is your game going to be exclusively available on iOS for a period of time? And I just sort of, I didn't want to do what Monument Valley 2 did, which was like 6 months or something ridiculous. But we figured like a few weeks, if it was gonna help Apple feature us, it was worth doing. And I can't say for sure that that's why our game was featured on the first day. You never really know. But it's possible that because it wasn't also on Android, they felt like it'd be good. Now, that could be totally wrong when you guys finish your games. Maybe by the time you do it, Apple's not as dominant, and you can release both at the same exact time. Who knows? But so those are the two reasons. We never really say that one publicly, but because you're developers, I'm just letting you know. And look, we could have done less. We could have done a week. We could have done non-exclusive. But it also felt like, all right, let's give ourselves some breathing room. You know, a few weeks. We'll put out some fires on iOS, and it'll be no problem when it comes out for Android. As for the other things here, they're sort of up in the air for different reasons. Well, I mean, Amazon Kindle, this is just an APK. It's Android. We'll test on like some of the Amazon devices that Amazon threw at us, but you know, you'll be fine. Does anyone have an Amazon Kindle? No, I didn't think so. All right, so you've got China, which is not a console, Steam, and Nintendo Switch. These are sort of up in the air to varying degrees. We really do want to release in China. It's a huge market, actually 1 billion people. That's not hyperbole, seriously. And people in China love gaming on their phones because they really don't buy gaming consoles. Some of them are banned by the government. They don't really have gaming PCs, but they have really high-end phones, like the newest Pixel that came out. That's considered a gaming console in China. Seriously, they take pride in it. They'll play MMOs, they'll play League of Legends, or someone copying League of Legends. So we really want to be in China, but there's a big problem. Does anyone know what it is? No? No! Come on, you gotta read your gaming business news, you guys.
Knock off.
Games are banned in China, you guys! So, here's the rundown. To get your game published in China, you need to have it approved by the Communist Party government. And there's actually a bureau, this is a real thing, called like the Ministry of Culture and some big Orwellian term. It's crazy. But whatever, that's just the cost of doing business in China. You get it approved by them, it takes a few months, you're good. Here's the problem. They shut off all new game licenses a few months ago, I think actually in March of this year. And they said, we're gonna shut it off for 6 months because games are a toxin on our populace. People are working hard enough, people are playing too much time playing games, they're neglecting their children, whatever. It's kind of like a moral thing. Then at the end of 6 months, they extended it for another 6 months. So we don't actually know when we'll be able to go live in China, but we have a publisher. We can't say who they are yet. They're real, I swear. It's not like my hot girlfriend in Canada that doesn't exist. It's true. And obviously they're bummed about it. They're excited about the game. We actually got the Chinese publisher on the hook because he played our demo. So that's one of the benefits of having the demo. It was a super polished thing, and he said, cool, I can see where you're going with this. But unfortunately, that's being stalled. So we'll let you guys know. That can be maybe come back for a quick meeting to talk about like, oh man, we finally published our game in China. But as of right now, we're not sure what to do about it. Steam and Nintendo Switch are interesting platforms. Problem is, as you can tell if you downloaded our game or you saw the screenshots, we're in portrait mode. So it would take kind of a lot of artwork to extend everything to be sort of widescreen, and even then, it would still be portrait mode. It would just be kind of an illusion. We'd say like, well, you can sort of see like the river, but nothing happens in that river. It's just for decoration. I don't mind doing that work, but we also don't know if we're guaranteed to get a ton of downloads on Steam. They don't really promote you that much, so you're kind of on your own. That would be more like if we wanted a PC version, and we were going to hit up all the markets. Discord, you buy games on Discord now. So if I could snap my fingers and have a PC version, I would do it, but we need to see if we make enough money on Android and Amazon to make that worth the time. And then obviously there's a lot of testing for PC, or just like weird things, like you're talking about the settings.
Yeah, just like various things that you don't really think about, like people might want to have it be full screen, and then maybe we don't have support for that, or changing resolutions and stuff like that. That is something that we need to do.
So we'll let you know what we decide with that. Now Nintendo Switch is even more difficult. So take all the things that are difficult about Steam, because now we need landscape instead of portrait, all that stuff. I talked to a rep at Nintendo when I was at Unite last year, because that's more for developers. By the way, if you guys like Unity, go to Unite. It was cool, it's worth going at least once. And all the developer relations people go to that, so the Nintendo guys were there. But I asked him point blank, I was like, listen, we've got this mobile game, I want to bring the Switch, what's the plan there? He said to go through their sort of gated vetting process. That's a better word for it. You need to make sure that your game works in the 3 different switch variants. So, like where Jake is sitting, if he was playing on his TV, that's mode number 1, console mode. Basic, right? That's what consoles are like. But you can also take the Switch off the dock, you can play it in your hands, sort of like this. So that's another version. Now, whatever we do, we have to make sure that it's tough, right? Because we're used to you holding the phone just a few inches from your face. Now it has to work on the console, on the TV, pretty far away, and also right here. And I'm not sure if you can tell people like, hey, turn your controller portrait mode, because that's how we did it. So then you'd be playing like landscape mode on your little Switch, but also it has to work like that, the sort of kickstand mode. Taking it off
too.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. You take the Joy-Cons off.
Is that not like mode 3?
I think that is mode 3.
mode
Yeah,
3,
because you
yeah.
can't really do anything if it's just sitting there. That's just coffee table mode. So yeah, it would be sort of like this, up there, and you've got my Joy-Cons. I don't know how the hell you play then, because it's a touch game, but you're not even touching your device. You just have Joy-Cons. Maybe you'd like, I don't even know.
Right, we would just have to implement
Right.
controls.
There would have to be some sort of controller in
Right. And what's even, I can already hear like everyone's thinking about it, like, oh, what an interesting, like, it's an interesting design puzzle, but we haven't really thought too much about it. What's more difficult than moving the character is dragging the objects, because you're supposed to use your fingers. Yes.
I'm just thinking, are you familiar with the Tomorrow Corporation? They make a human resource machine,
Yeah.
World of Guild.
Do they?
Oh, yeah.
I think they're on the Switch, but they only support touch control. Like, I don't think you can
No, the Joy-Con has a gyro.
And they use the gyro as
Right.
pointers.
Has anyone experienced that? Is it?
Switch specifically.
Yeah,
I played through Human Resource Machine with the gyro.
The Switch gyro is pretty good.
Yeah. I saw Isaac's hand and also someone in the back. Isaac.
Are you gonna have motion-based controls, so whenever you shake the controller, it goes faster?
We currently have something like that now where if you tap multiple times on a space, it'll run faster. I'm not sure how we would do that.
Yes! It's converted!
Half-Life 3. Yes, but
I thought of a solution for the dragging objects, I think, maybe.
let us hear it.
So you could use like the trigger buttons to highlight the different objects, and then use the control stick to move those back and forth.
Yeah,
I think you heard that last time, the one thing you did say was like you wanted it to be like they have to consciously think objects and then concentrate on your life.
Well, it sounded like they would consciously, but you're saying highlight,
Yeah, I
like
think-
point at it?
I think some concessions would have to be made for a controller scheme,
Yeah.
so it might be that you end up cycling through them. But
Yeah, cycling through them was
one of the things that we like is it a trick.
I think with Switch, hypothetically, they would need to use this control stick and just like,
Oh, just like-
I think that would.
That could work.
Seeing what you were describing to us out there earlier, the difference between a line versus the circular movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
Right, I forgot they had
Food
like.
for thought, you know?
Yeah.
I'm glad everyone's talking right now because now is the QA portion, so it's perfect. I can see you guys all the questions. You can also try to take center stage here because there's nothing else. Here's the links to the game. Obviously, I have to do this. If you have an iPhone, check it out. That goes right to us. Purchase the game. Give us 5 stars. It really does help us because, as you saw with the puzzle rankings, we're trying to like move up to where we were on the launch weekend. And then obviously, if you're on Android, just wait until Thanksgiving. But you can check out the beta right now, and the beta will be updated sometime around launch to say something like, "Hey, the game's out. Go get it." Because we're trying to get those people too. Yes.
This is a question for all of you. What's your favorite kind of bread?
All right, to the center of the room, we got to answer this bread question.
What the heck?